my team, Chief Mike Magnoli. We're so glad that you're with us for the first day of the show. I'm here to bring you a live interview segment, Justice on the Ballot. It's where politics and law enforcement and the court system all come together. We'll be covering some important races in the months ahead. To begin, in Palm Beach County, our state attorney, Dave Ehrenberg, is not seeking re-election. Dave first won that role in 2012 and was re-elected without opposition in 2016 and 2020. And now there's a heated race to fill his spot as the top prosecutor. So voters get to decide on an all-new state attorney. Over the next 2 weeks, I'll have all of the candidates here on the sofa with us. There's 6 of them in total, and we'll be talking about their ideas and their legal experience. First up, Gregg Lerman, Democrat.
Attorney Gregg Lerman is a staple in Palm Beach County's legal community. Criminal defense attorneys know his name and his face because of the high-profile cases he's taken, and he ran for judge in 2016. Didn't win, he went back to his practice. He was the founding member and a past president of the Palm Beach Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Highlights from Mr. Lerman's platform. He knows that drug addiction and mental health issues are often factors in crimes. If elected as state attorney, he'd like to explore expanding the availability of drug court, which currently only operates during weekday business hours. He says people with full-time jobs need more options, like a weeknight or even a weekend drug court. He says the county must do a better job protecting seniors from fraud and prosecuting the criminals who take advantage of the elderly. Lerman has represented murderers, many from headline stories in our area. And for 2 years, as a professor, he led training sessions with new prosecutors. That was at the request of the state attorney's office. He says it's important for young prosecutors to understand what it's like for defense lawyers. And that's a philosophy, he says, he'll bring with him if he wins.
And Mr. Lerman with us now live. Greg, you've been a defense attorney for a lot of years. How does that make you qualified to be the county's top prosecutor?
Well, I'll quote Dave to start with. Dave Ehrenberg said one of the reasons he's leaving office is because there's a need for a new perspective, a need for change in the office. I'm the change. I, as a defense attorney for 39 years, have an understanding of the causes of crime, how that can be solved, or at least how we can have a positive impact on crime and make a difference in this community to reduce crime in Palm Beach County. I understand what's going on, and I've touched each and every part of that office over these 39 years, be it county court, felony court, handling capital cases, the capital division, juvenile court, and out in Belglade as well in the north and south part of the county.
I want to talk to you and sort of pick your brain about plea bargaining. There have been some headline cases over the past couple of months where defendants have been able to take a plea. You had the Killer Clown case, for instance. Defendant Sheila Keene Warren was able to plead to second-degree murder. It wasn't in Palm Beach County, but up in Martin County, you might remember the Austin Haroof case. Last minute, prosecution says, we're not going to go to trial. They accepted his not guilty plea by reason of insanity. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we had the Farrader case. That was a child abuse, child neglect case where the mom was able to take a plea bargain. So I want to know sort of what your thoughts are about that. Do you think that that's happening too much right now? And what's your position on plea bargaining?
Plea bargaining is necessary. If we don't have plea bargaining, the system breaks down. That's a reality. Not every case can go to trial. Cases need to be moved, and there's always factors involved in why cases get resolved in the way they do. All the cases that you just listed had various issues and problems for the prosecution that caused those cases to be resolved in the way they were, or had factors like the woman, the mother, who resolved the case regarding the child abuse, the child neglect case. The father was already going to prison. She has children still. What impact did that have? The Haroof case up in Martin County. Clearly, that young man had mental health issues. And the state in Martin County, not in Palm Beach, but in Martin County, which is a tough county, mind you, they were convinced that they were going to lose on a not guilty by reason of insanity. So why not get a positive outcome for both sides in that particular circumstance?
Let's talk about the death penalty. I think we have some video of Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz. There was no question. He was the guilty person there. That's
Right.
He did it. He was the trigger man. Killed 17 people. The jury, in his sentencing phase, decided to spare his life. What's your position on the death penalty, and if you become the county's top prosecutor, will you seek it?
I've been what we call a death penalty defense attorney for 35 of my 39 years of practice in criminal defense. Do I have a personal support of the death penalty? No, but it's the law of the land. And this county, this state attorney's office, has had a working system, a committee system that makes the decisions as to whether the death penalty should be sought or not. And I would continue that practice. It works. It's not sought very often in this county. It is supposed to be the rare penalty. In the case down in Parkland, it was the jury that made that decision. The judge couldn't override that decision. There were factors clearly involved in this man's mental health, and that's why his life was clearly spared in that particular circumstance. Every case is different. Every case has to be weighed individually, and the committee of the state attorney's office will continue to work even under me.
Let's talk about crimes where the victim or the perpetrator is under 18 years old. How would you handle those cases? Would there be any new rules under your leadership if you're elected?
If you're asking about direct file versus not direct file,
Sure.
which is what I'm assuming you're talking about,
Sure.
again, it goes to individual cases. One of the saddest parts of my practice as a criminal defense attorney is when I'm dealing with young men or women, but mostly young men, who commit crimes of violence, specifically with firearms, when they're under the age of 18. Again, each case needs to be looked at individually. The facts need to be weighed to decide whether a case should be direct filed or not. I don't believe in hard line policies that if somebody's 16 and they commit a crime of violence with a firearm, it's an automatic direct file. Every case needs to be judged on its own with all the various factors, including family, environmental, what the circumstances of a particular crime were. It's probably one of the most depressing parts about, I think, both being a defense attorney and a prosecutor when you see young people committing crimes of violence.
Mr. Lerman, I have time for one more question. And I want to ask you about the law enforcement community. You and I were talking about this before we sat down on the sofa. Some of your opponents have the support of various police unions, law enforcement agencies. For the people who wear a badge and bring a gun every day to work, they might have some reservations about you. You might be scrutinizing what they're doing. And as a prosecutor, you're sort of on their team now where you haven't been before. Talk to me about that.
I have a lot of support with the law enforcement community. A lot of members of law enforcement don't want somebody that's currently in the state attorney's office to be the state attorney because they don't feel they're actually getting the support within the office that they believe they should have. And I believe they're correct. There are lots of issues that need to be dealt with to support law enforcement. At the same time, it's like any job to some extent. There's always a bad apple here and there. And I don't believe that having a badge puts somebody above the law. If a law enforcement officer commits a crime, I understand their union has a job to do, be it the Police Benevolent Association or FOP. However, the state attorney's office has a job also. And the ends doesn't justify the means. Law enforcement officers that perjure themselves or commit crimes in some other way, be it aggravated battery or some other situation, that doesn't mean they should simply be suspended for a few days. The badge is not a pass. It's not a hall pass, so to speak. They should be prosecuted, and the PBA can defend them, and the state attorney's office will do their job.
Thanks for your thoughtful answers to my
Thank you.
questions. Good to have you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.